In Minecraft, you got dungeons, and dungeons. You go through several challenge rooms, fight the boss to get rewards, which you can use to buy stuff at the dungeon merchants. And in this dungeon master challenge, all I am allowed to use as a level from level 1 to 100 are items I can buy from these dungeon merchants, dungeon quests, raid chests, and special drops from super powerful secret boss altar bosses. Most of what you will see was recorded over a year ago, so for this to ever come out, I decided to split it into 2 parts. Chapter 1: Decrepit Sewers. After leveling up 5 times, I started the first dungeon quest with only my oakwood bow that I got at the start. Killing mobs was hard, but luckily pets are allowed, so my pet fox just murdered everything in its path. And my only goal was not to get hit, as I could easily get one shot. I leveled up in the quest and finished it, getting Throwaway Sick, which in this run will be super important, and without which I probably wouldn't be able to get past this dungeon. First I rolled +9 main attack damage, but since I had enough emeralds, I re-rolled and got 11, which is really good. However, in order to wear it, I had to be level 9. So I leveled up once more, got the Power Shots upgrade, and I was ready to enter my first dungeon of the series, the Decrepit Sewers. With only one piece of armor, the most basic weapon imaginable, and a pet, which does some damage, however it will not be able to keep me alive. Killing the mobs in the first room was difficult. I still wasn't level 9, so I did very little damage, and could be easily one-shot, so I had to avoid the mobs at all costs. Plus, using my pet also wasn't very useful, as getting it to actually target the mobs seemed harder than just killing them with my basic bow. After a while though, I did level up, I equipped Throwaway Sick, and suddenly I doubled my HP and tripled my damage, so to my own surprise, killing these mobs was doable. I did have a few close calls, so I decided to heal by waiting, as I of course forgot to buy any potions from the dungeon potion merchant, which are the only potions I can use in this challenge, by the way. While waiting to heal, I tried sniping some enemies until I got enough tokens to open the door and progress into the next room. The next room wasn't any big of a problem. I got 26 tokens from killing the mobs, and I went for the boss. I was scared, as I have never done this dungeon this under armored. At first, killing the boss was very slow, with my 17 average damage per hit on his 1100 health. I tried to avoid his shots and let my fox kill him, however I was too far and the fox just kept zigzagging between me and Witherhead, not getting to anyone, so I went a bit closer and my fox attacked him fully, winning me this fight and the first dungeon of this challenge, and that only with one piece of armor and my basic bow. After that, I decided to upgrade my bow by spending my single Witherhead's Rip on Stale, a level 9 bow with 47 DPS, which from my previous 9 was a welcomed addition. And with it, I absolutely shredded all the mobs in the first room of the dungeon after going in again. I mean, I also got kinda shredded because my armor was still highly inadequate, but that's just a matter of skill issue. Another matter of skill issue was that I again forgot to buy any healing potions, so I had to wait for my health to regenerate slowly. The next room was easy, I even leveled up in it, unlocking the Arrow Shield ability, which blocks 2 hits and even does damage to mobs that try to hit me. Killing the boss with this bow was a walk in the park. I used the Witherhead's Rip to buy knee, the only pants currently available for me. Then I killed the boss again. It wasn't instant, but calling it difficult would be a massive overstatement. I then used the reward to buy Witherhead's Talisman, a nice necklace with spell damage, loot bonus, and XP bonus. Now, even though I had a water powder in my inventory, I couldn't use it because I didn't buy it from the dungeon merchant, so I threw it away and bought the same powder for my dungeon fragments, and using the powder merchant in the Nivla forest, I put it on my bow, increasing the damage per second from 47 to 52. Nice! Chapter 2: Infested Pit. I started the Infested Pit dungeon quest, unlocked the Arrow Storm spell, which I subsequently used, and I got overwhelmed by mobs, resulting in my first death of the series. I'm so glad I didn't do this hardcore. After that, I decided traveling between Deathless and Ragni took too long, so I helped a person dressed as a cow to free cows by magically teleporting them on a boat. And unlike in my 100 days, I actually finished this quest. unlocking the Ragni Ditless Fast Travel. I collected some lava from a volcano. I finally bought some potions, finished the dungeon quest getting way more XP than I should, unlocking the Windy Feet ability, which is an amazing ability as it gives me speed, leveling once more by killing these spiders in front of the dungeon and going into the dungeon. I was very scared of the first room, as oftentimes I get overwhelmed by the mobs here and I die. So I escaped to the exit and just sniped the mobs that got too close to me. After this tactic went pretty well, I got a bit overconfident and attacked a lot of mobs in the middle of the arena. Naturally, they surrounded me, and when I tried to escape, they killed me pretty much instantly, resulting in the second death of this series. A big problem in this series will be getting keys to access the dungeons. I found 2 players with the same armor I want to get from the Infested Pit, and shortly thereafter a key guardian as well. I went in using a dungeon bomb, died because I was undergeared, and went in again. This time I was more cautious, almost dying either way, unlocking the door and getting into another room, where these spiders are very strong, so I had to be cautious. But in the end I got 20 tokens. I was finally ready to face off Arachadicus for the first time. I was quite scared. I started by using arrow storms and they seemed to do no damage. However, after a while I realized they actually do quite a lot. I got stuck in Arachadicus' webs, which scared me, but after using a few more arrow storms and arrow bombs, I killed it with a relative ease, and I leveled up 2 levels. I used my 2 ability points to unlock the Phantom Ray, which made my arrow storm more precise and just look way cooler. And I used my Arachadicus' eye to buy a new bow, for which I needed to return back to the Decrepit sewers, where I used my remaining fragments on buying a water powder, which yet again increased my DPS by 3. I got almost killed by the spiders, and this time I used the Phantom Ray on Arachadicus and I killed him no problem. After that I entered several more times, getting down to 6 HP at times, but killing the boss with ease. I bought new and my first boots. I toggled player ghosts to see if there are any people entering the dungeon whose keys I could parasite on, but since there was no one, I had to hunt my own. I unlocked the focus ability, which made me deal more damage the more accurate I was from afar. After getting 2 Arachadicus' eyes, I used them to buy a spider helmet. Afterwards, I found an Infested Pit key guardian right behind this Underworld Crypt key guardian. Then I found 3 more Underworld Crypt Guardians before finding an Infested Pit one. I used one, but then instead of using the other one, I decided to switch servers to one where it looked like someone was gonna enter the dungeon, and soon enough I parasited on their key, because 1 key can be used for up to 4 people, and switched servers so that they wouldn't help me with the actual dungeon. This is a really good way of saving keys. I finished, then 3 more times, and on my last run, this cool thing happened of me getting a legendary from killing mobs, which I can't use, but it's rare, so I thought I would mention it in this video. Killing the last boss was super easy. All I had to do was use Phantom Ray 3 times, and boom boom boom, dungeon complete. I bought leggings, chestplate, and 2 rings, getting lifesteal and speed from the rings, and a sweet set bonus of walk speed and poison from the spider set. These are my stats now, and I have an average DPS on 125.8. Nice! Chapter 3, Bovine Barn. Boss altars are more difficult than dungeons. They are secret, meant to be discovered on your second playthrough and played with friends, to be able to get exclusive items. These bosses have an insane amount of health and deal a ton of damage if you're doing them on the intended level, which I am 10 levels ahead of, but I do have only level 20 and lower items, so it cancels out. I needed to kill 8 of these cows to get enough leather to access the boss. Then I realized they were going directly into my ingredient pouch, and I found out I have quite a lot of ingredients that waste my inventory space, so I threw them out and decided to organize my pouch into a section with keys, fragments, and TP scrolls. After that I used the leather on the boss altar. If you would ask me how putting 8 leather onto an altar is able to teleport me into a cave with no entrance, I could not answer for the life of it, but here we are. Welcome to Wynncraft. And here it is, the boss fight, the hardest one so far. I started by killing these scarecrows, as they can throw wheat at you, and when there are 4 mobs throwing stuff at you, it gets super irritating because it will knock you back and make it easier for the cow to just speed up on you and one-shot you. Yeah. I hopped onto the Sea Skipper and took him back to the Durham Isles. I wanted to kill this boss for better boots, as my current ones decrease my water damage, which, when my weapon deals water damage, isn't particularly ideal, and an amulet, which may or may not give me more XP bonus than Witherhead's Talisman, but gives me additional health, strength, and intelligence. Well, don't take that. The boss fight went well. I just had to move in curves so that he wouldn't be able to charge at me again. Use spells and don't let him touch me. And I killed him! Yes! He dropped a legendary and a rare item, which could have been the amulet and boots, but was the chestplate and the relic, which I had no use for. So I went in again. Now the way boss altar items drop is you have a 40% chance to get it when you kill the boss, but loot bonus increases the chance a lot. So when I'll be doing future boss altar bosses, I will try to get some loot bonus stuff to not have to do the boss so many times. This time the protector dropped 2 legendaries, one of them being the necklace, and it also dropped a bow, which I didn't think it could. Then I leveled, but it only dropped a bow. Then it just dropped nothing. And finally, after 5 bosses, I got 2 legendaries, the chestplate and an amulet, and that's not important. What is important that I got the boots. So I went back to Nimracht, had the time of my life ringing this bell. Then, because I didn't have enough emeralds to do it all at once, I identified the armor, getting really bad stats on the boots, and pretty good stats on one of the chestplates I didn't want to use. Then I identified the bows, and they were different, which became suspicious to me, as I don't think the boss would drop 2 different unique bows, so I looked them up, and lo and behold, neither is a special drop from the boss, so I can't use them. Then I identified the necklaces, and one of them had the exact same XP bonus as my Witherhead Talisman. I rerolled the boots from giving damage to giving speed, and I equipped the necklace, even the chestplate, which sadly removed the epic spider set bonus, and the boots, which although had the same health, were way better than the previous ones. Nice! Now a short break from the video. I'm looking for a team to help me make videos. So if you want to help me edit, just create videos in general, I'm thinking of completely rebranding so more people can create videos for this channel, translate, make these cinematic shots, act in my videos, usually for some elite prizes, or next Double XP weekend I'm preparing to speedrun again and I need people. Join my Discord. I recently completely revamped it, so you can see what I'm working on, influence which videos will be worked on, get access to my library of assets and loot runs, help me research my videos and give feedback on them, find a list of useful discords, and even hang out with me while I edit my videos live. Those who donated got to see this video a month in advance. I will not do this with every video, but I will be doing it for the big ones. Ko-fi and YouTube members will get the donator role on Discord, it's just that Ko-fi won't take 30% of the money, and you can literally donate any amount. Chapter 4 Lost Sanctuary. I got onto a bridge seeing Dumble, Door, and Potter. Wonder what those names refer to. Saw the boss of this dungeon get thrown into the nether and come back all corrupted. After that, these Harry Potter parodies blew up a boulder, unlocking the access to the Lost Sanctuary, aka the dungeon no one really does, as there's a dungeon only 3 levels higher that gives more XP. Then I saw someone enter, so I entered with them. Then I failed this parkour. God, I hate how long you have to wait when you fail. The next part consisted of me killing progressively more creepers. This dungeon pretty much only consists of killing creepers, even though they are like an endangered species, and you as the player are meant to be like on their side as they're peaceful in Wynncraft, so I don't really get the killing, but it's what's required to progress, so I'm gonna kill these creepers whether they like it or not. I entered this scary door that burned just so I could go through. Not gonna lie, that's sweet of Gareth to have done for me. Now, in the boss battle, you need 9 TNT to open up a lava pit in the middle into which Gareth will fall and die. The rate at which creepers spawn here is slow. So at one point I just decided to use some spells on Gareth, and then I realized that he has only 30,000 health, which would not be impossible to kill by hand. So I used a lot of arrow storms on him. A lot. And some more. Then my man ran out. Then some more. Then creepers spawned. But Gareth was very low at this point. Then one more. And after 2 more phantom rays, I killed him without pushing him into the lava pit. I think this was only possible because I primarily dealt water damage, as that was his weakness. I had 2 unused ability points, so I got myself a grappling hook, which is really good for climbing mountains, but I have never used it on Wynncraft before. At this point it would have been more efficient to just keep the normal escape, however I wanted to learn, so I kept it. Here you can see me using the grappling hook on the ground, because I thought it would push me up. This is how experienced I am with it. Here again. This time I also meleeed the boss. Next run I used my own key for the first time, this dungeon. And while trying to get to the boss room / learning to use the grappling hook, I got killed by the mobs there. Since then I always kill the mobs in this section. Afterwards I finally used the proper method of killing Garroth by blowing up the middle. He naturally proceeds to stop right at the edge of the lava pit to observe his surroundings, but after a while he decided that going straight ahead into the lava lake was a good idea, and it wasn't in my best interest, to stop him. So I watched from above as he burned with his creeper followers, and I won. Something amazing about the grappling hook is that you can very easily get from deep caves like this. As no players that I could parasite on seem to be going into this dungeon, I decided to do the unthinkable and actually search for keys. I opened my first high tier chest, and coincidentally I got a tier 2 pouch in the second high tier chest I opened. Sadly I got pulled before managing to grab it. The Lost Sanctuary Key Guardian is, in my opinion, the hardest one to find, as even after 20 minutes of looking, I wasn't able to find one. So I just went back and waited a bit to use someone else's. I finished the dungeon twice, not using my key a single time, and I had 5 Gareth's breaths, which meant that I finally had enough drops to buy mud. I know, an underwhelming word, but it's a legendary word that will give us 280 health and 38% attack damage. That's a lot. But yeah, we are now getting to the phase where getting an item will make you do the dungeon even 5 times. So I went searching for a key again, and you wouldn't believe how happy I was seeing this little rascal hiding in the grass. I had to kill him and his henchman immediately. But all this is now irrelevant, as I took so long making this video, they replaced this dungeon with the Timelost Sanctum. Using my own keys feels the same. I'm gonna continue using others' keys as it saves time. After failing this parkour for like the bajillionth time, I used the grappling hook to get into this lamppost and found out that once the bridge respawned, I could just walk across it normally without it burning and making me fall. And I finished the dungeon more than once. Then I contemplated whether running around is actually the best way to get key guardians, so I decided to camp in this chest for like 3 minutes, and lo and behold who spawned, a Lost Sanctuary Key Guardian. So the last Lost Sanctuary run was also with my own key. Killing Garroth with lava, leveling to 35 and buying Gold Digger with loot bonus, which will be imperative for later boss altars, as loot bonus affects not only the ingredient drops needed to access these altars, but also the drop rate of the boss altar item themselves. Nice! Chapter 5, the Underworld Crypt. For this dungeon I did something really special. I did part of this chapter in 2.0 and part of it in 2.0.1, which updated this dungeon specifically. So, you will see the comparison between the old and the new dungeon, which I think is neat. There was no lack of keys as the guardians spawn often. I fell down a floor while a hunter followed me because he thought I was recording my HICH, on which I have only 1 life and any player can kill me anytime. Definitely check that series out though. I walked through a grey dimension of ancient Nemract, which are the ruins the dungeon resides in, finished the dungeon quest, and went in for the first time. Killed a lot of zombies, survived on 3 platforms, killed a mini-boss, and rode a boat. 2.0.1 doesn't change any of this. What it does change is the boss. In the old version that I'm currently playing, you had to summon minions to kill Charon. So I just summoned General Kraken a few times, killed the minions, and the army of General Krakens got him. That was the meta strategy. However, since at the point of recording I knew the update was going to come, in the next boss battle I decided to show you all the various minions you can spawn. There's the Scout, fast but weak, Warrior, strong but slow, Defender, which had ton of health, Slayer, which was good at killing the minions, and best of all, General Kraken, who, if you had the DPS to kill the minions, could easily take on Charon. And I bought Black Ripper, a cool helmet with decent health and attack damage. I finally passed the 1000 HP mark, yay! Then the update dropped. First thing I noticed was that the entrance changed. The rate of guardians spawning probably didn't, as there was one waiting right outside. The first 4 parts didn't change, but once you entered the boss, you actually had to have a pretty good build. Once he spawned, I was surprised they didn't leave any minions that would help you out. His new look was cool. I love the new model, how he towers above you. He also has 12,000 health, which is a lot. I remember on my first playthrough at this point, I could barely kill a mob with 2,000. He also sometimes floats into the air and throws 5 skulls at you while being invincible. He teleports a lot, but I was able to kill him after a while. Then I killed him 4 more times, accidentally used another key, which doesn't really bother me, and I bought Damnation, my first legendary weapon. Nice. Chapter 6, The Rotten Passage. For this boss altar, the quest Gravedigger is needed, so I bought some ale, made this guy spill some secrets while drunk. I found out that you can use grappling hook to pull mobs towards you. I then farmed some rotten flesh in ancient Nemrak to enter the cathedral so that I can kill Sailor's brother, which is arguably one of the easiest fights in the game. I finished the quest, got rid of the ashes, and went into the graveyard this quest logs that the boss altar is in. I have never actually done this altar, so I don't even know where it was, but after going into a few wrong houses, I found the correct one, and at the end of a short tunnel I found it, the Rotten Passage boss altar, which needs rotten flesh, so after a little grind in ancient Nimrite, I returned and entered the Rotten Passage. There was a wall that blew up, and then the mobs spawned. There was a lot of mobs, and I didn't know how hard the boss is going to be, so first I killed most of the mobs, and only then I turned to the boss, but he was pretty easy. All I needed were 3 arrow storms and he was dead. Sadly, he didn't drop anything useful. Second time, it dropped a bow. Third time, I leveled up, which is big news, okay, because I was able to equip the Twain's Arc, which, if you haven't seen the trailer, is an epic sniper ability that if you have some focus and you shift, you can just snipe mobs dealing tons of damage. I have also identified the bows, wanting to sell them, but I got this godly one, and I became increasingly unsure as to which one I should use, but in the end, I decided for the legendary higher level one. Then in the boss room, I killed all the minions because I want to try the Twain's Arc on the boss itself, and it dealt a ton of damage. However, I became low on health, so I had to pause. But in the end, I did get him, and I love how the items just exploded out of him. Sadly, I still didn't get what I wanted. The 5th fight, I mostly just sniped him from afar, and he finally dropped 2 legendaries, but neither being the one I wanted. The 6th one also dropped 2 legendary wands, which I had no use for. Until finally, the 7th boss dropped 2 legendary chestplates thanks to the loot bomb that doubles all loot dropped. I ID'd them and they were both pretty bad, so I re-ID'd the worst one and got even a worse one, so after selling the rest, I just kept this one as my loot bonus chestplate, still pretty nice. Chapter 7, The Sandswept Tomb. This chapter starts with a heist. I had to break a few windows, steal a journal so that I could access a thief meeting to find out where a scepter is hidden. Once there, I killed a key guardian, but before I got to grab the key, it TP'd me into a cutscene. Or so I thought. Later I realized I actually did pick up the key, which is weird because it was quite far from the mob. I found the scepter and used it to unlock the Sandswept Tomb dungeon, out of which an undead mob appeared, showing us that there is something inside that needs to be killed. So I went in. I killed a mini-boss, pressed this button pretty well on the first attempt, and what I like about this dungeon is that it changes every time you go in it. Well, not every time, but there are 4 various fighting rooms out of which you can always pick one. This run I went into the one where the ceiling drops and I have to get 30 tokens. There are also 4 various parkours in which I was learning how to use the grappling hook. At first I kept falling, but after a while I learned that you have to aim at these pillars and you will skip the entire parkour. Then I had to survive in a room for 60 seconds, in which I just mostly had fun with Twain's Arc, but with it you have to be very precise, as when you miss you lose the ability. After jumping across some falling floor, which you don't want to fall through, I went into the boss. The first phase was really easy, just a few arrow storms. The second phase had 12,000 health, so it was a bit harder, but I already killed such bosses in the Underworld Crypt. I thought it just needed a few arrow storms, but this boss was stronger and nearly killed me, so I had to heal a bit before attacking him again with tons of arrow storms. Then the third phase spawned, an insanely fast mob that I tried to kill with Twain's Arc but couldn't until it just attacked me from behind, and I think thanks to my thorns it died by its own hand. Next run I got into the 15 token PvE room and this cylindrical parkour, which I could easily Once I learned how to use grappling hook easily cheese with only 3 spells, I leveled up, but I couldn't enter again as I had no keys and no one to steal the keys from. So I tried loot running and I hoped guardians would spawn while I was in caves, leaving everything in chests because I could only take emeralds, and they did. Well, one at least. It took another 12 minutes for another one to spawn. Then I saw a third one, but I want to be cool and use the Twain's Arc because, let's be real, I love the ability, and I know you do, so I got overwhelmed by mobs and died. Luckily one spawned right after, so I had 3 more attempts. I got into the 1 token room which spawns waves, but you just need to kill the final boss. I then had enough items to buy another legendary bow, Chaser. It had more damage, but most importantly 30% walk speed. Now I had no more keys, so I decided to use a key from another class and switch. I know it might look like cheating, but it doesn't break any rules I set, so I'm allow it. Besides, it only saves time, and I want you to have these videos as soon as possible. In the boss room, the 30% walk speed was noticeable, as when walking back and shooting the boss, I now outran him, compared to earlier where he would always catch up, so it made killing him easier. Now something extremely rare, only 1 out of 512 runs will have it, is when the dungeon gives you a fabled item at the end. Chaos Dragon, the guy who did Dungeon Master before me, got it after 503 runs on his episode, which you can check in the top right corner. It was insane. Well, after completing the dungeon for the 9th time, I got it as well! Just kidding. I had Linus drop it on me as a little prank on Chaos Dragon. I hope that he's watching. Now, since this series has basically become a dungeon showcase, it felt bad not showing you what happens when you fall the falling bridge. I fell down, and I remembered it being an insanely hard challenge, but that's probably just the corrupted version. In this one, you just need to kill a few charging mobs. And after killing the boss for the 10th time, I had enough items to buy Springtrap, a legendary chestplate which kept the thorns and reflection I had from the previous chestplate and increased my HP by half, all the way to 1500. Nice! Chapter 8. Sunrise Canyon. Do you know how when you want something it won't happen, but when you suddenly forget about it, it will? Well, I completely forgot emerald pouches existed and I got one! It's weird how the universe works. Then I tried escaping onto the plateau, but it was quest locked, so I had to start the Canyon Condor. Grappling hook is really OP in climbing, too bad it lacks the quality in traveling. I then finally put on the loot bonus chestplate from Rotten Passage and started killing coyotes. The boss altar is located on that plateau, where you can get with a spell, but I want to show you how to get it officially. So if you won't fall like me, you should just press this button and enjoy a calm minecart ride above a 50-meter ravine to the other side. Then I entered the boss. His arrows deal 1000 damage each, so after trying to snipe him with Twain's Arc, which didn't end very well, as Rymakluk nearly one-shot me because I stood still. I had to run around in circles, which with an archer was pretty easy, and after a while of walking around, I eventually got him dropping a fable item, which this time is not a prank. I did it, and it was of course Deadeye, the best bow at this level and the only fabled one. I then spelled in again. I put my loot bonus Obulus on, risking being actually one-shot, but since I was an archer I easily killed Luke without being hit once. It had given me Bedrock Bandana, which I equipped as it was better than my current helmet. I then did it once more to get some better IDs on my stuff. It was completely arbitrary, but I didn't want a red Deadeye, although I must say it did fit with the fabled aesthetic. It was nice. Chapter 9. Ice Barrows, aka the point where things start to go wrong. It started pretty well. I just committed a simple robbery of a priceless artifact, you know, the usual stuff, walked into this massive door, which leads into this massive hall, which, might I remind you, was built only for you to walk through it once in your entire Wynncraft playthrough. That's just crazy to me. Traveled back in time? I mean, seriously, why was this altar used only once if it allows you to travel back in time? I would use it all the time. You get a bad grade on a test, travel back in time. You do something embarrassing in front of your crush, travel back in time. We met Theoric, who we will have to fight this dungeon, who, same as Gareth, entered the nether portal and got corrupted. However, thanks to his strong ice magic, he was able to freeze Nesak to prevent the spread of corruption, and him with it staying dormant for 400 years. And now it's our time to finish him, but boy will it not be easy. In the first room you have to kill these thingies, which have lots of health, but take lots of damage so it equals out and equilibrium is achieved. However, after you kill them, they spawn unkillable ghosts that, well, you can kill. These guys have 30,000 health. I killed 30k mobs in chapter 4, but you spawn 10 of them and they just make it very irritating to get the tokens. Then there's this room, where unless you're really careful, you get overwhelmed with mobs, and even if you are extremely careful, you can still easily die. This invisible path is actually really cool, as at first you shift the entire way, but once you know it, you can pretty much sprint through it easily. Then this part, how I hate this part. Not once in this challenge have I completed this part without getting stuck behind a barrier at least 2 out of 3 times. Grappling hook is amazing, but here it sucks. Then I died while almost getting to the boss, which was the beginning of me slowly losing my sanity over this dungeon. I then went to the Ice Islands to find some Ice Barrows key guardians. Found one instantly, but it took me literally half an hour to get the remaining 5. And that only gave me enough keys for the runs that I completed. I will need to get in the dungeon more than that. Next run, I ran out of potions in the Overwhelmtion room. There was a dungeon bomb, so I used it. Found out that the Overwhelmtion cave is hard even with potions, as the block slowly killed me, but in the end I was victorious, and this time I finally got to the boss, Theoric Twain, the Ice Mage. I tried getting far away from him so that I could Twain Arc on him. Funny how I wanted to use the spell named after his family, and maybe that's why it didn't work, as he kept teleporting to me and he just killed me, which is when I made the decision, which I swore I never would, as it will break the whole structure of this video, but I felt like I had no other choice. I decided to do higher level content in order to be able to complete lower level 1, which means the name of this chapter should change to Chapter 9, Ice Barrows and Prison of Souls. Prison of Souls is a level 45 boss altar for which you need these ghostly essences. Then you go here. Wait, that's one excavation. You go here, and you put the ghostly essences in. Pro tip, stay near the fire beam, otherwise you won't get teleported like me right now, so I had to use double the essences. Then the bosses spawned. I tried just sniping it with arc, but it pulled me, plus it had ranged attack, so that wasn't possible, so I killed the beast, one of 4 mobs needed to complete this altar, but the unfettered is one speedy boy. I wasn't able to outrun it, and it killed me. Second time I tried running away, but it didn't work, so this time I killed the beast with Chaser, and with the 30% walk speed, I actually am able to generally outrun the Unfeathered. It's a long fight, a lot of phantom raids. The Unfeathered has 30,000 health and spawns after killing the beast, with 10,000 health. I managed to kill him and pretty much one-shot the Enslaved with Twins Arc. It felt really good, as after such a long time of constantly dying, it made me feel like I might not be such a failure after all. The second mob also has 30k after killing one with 10k, so in total you have to deal about 80,000 damage. Sadly, the Unbound was just turning invisible all the time and managed to kill me before giving me his loot. That doesn't really matter though, as the Unfeathered had given me one thing, these rare pants, which are really good for this level and give lots of health. Even with 0% health, they give over 700, but that wasn't enough. So I rerolled them and got over 1000, which made me a bit more confident in being able to complete the Ice Barrows. But confidence is not everything needed, as I died either way and lost most of my keys with it. Therefore, I did the boss altar again, this time killing the Unfeathered as well as, with 62% loot bonus, the Unbound, getting the pants, necklace and bracelet, which I will keep for later. However, I was looking for the chestplate, so I killed them again, this time getting every drop except pants, which I already had twice. But I realized the chestplate was level 50, so I had to beat Ice Barrows a few times without it as well. It had a lot of cool IDs, including the Mana Steel, which cancels out the minus mana region of the pants, which otherwise is a real pain in the ass. I tried identifying at least the stuff that I got, but I was royally broke. I tried doing the Twins Mansion quest, as it gives you a lot of money, but I needed 2 more levels for it, so I just went in with what I had, hoping for the best. I got to the boss, and this time instead of making space for the Twins Arc, I attacked it with as many Phantom Rays as I could as fast as possible. Not saying I didn't try it, that spell is my weakness, but once I gave up, it was quite easy to finish him off, and I won the dungeon for the first time! Yay! I then continued dying and succeeding with various rates of success, until I got level 50, equipped Marius' prison, but due to skill point limitations, I wasn't able to use Chaser for another 2 levels, which is a shame because I do enjoy the walk speed and fast attacks. Leveled twice, died because I had barely enough emeralds to buy health potions, finished it once more, and finally I had enough ice shards to buy Iron Foot, which were a great improvement from Mud. Figuring out skill points was, however, also a tough nut to crack, and I managed to do so with me being able to use Chaser only in 2 levels. Again, I then went into the dungeon for one last time, or so I thought as I got overwhelmed in here again, but I managed to beat the dungeon for the 7th time, and this time I will keep the shard as a surprise tool that will help us out later, but you will have to wait until the 12th chapter to find out what for. I then tried crossing the Great Bridge to get to the jungle for the next dungeon, however, since I can't use a horse as I normally would because getting it from a quest would be against the rules, I had to go in without any walk speed or anything, and naturally I died. What surprised me was that I was able to get to the second half. So I switched my skill points again to have the Chaser walk speed using a different chestplate. I first tried sniping the mobs, and once they started spawning behind me, I made the run for it. And although it might look insignificant, the 30% walk speed does make a big difference, as I was able to make it, getting to the jungle and starting Chapter 10, Undergrowth Ruins. I found out I can do nearly 10,000 damage with one hit. There's also this shaman called Skylar who protected Trolls, but after another came to town they rejected him, so he swore revenge, and that's why I have to kill him. At the end of the quest there were also soldiers entering the dungeon, but as I never saw them after, I just assumed they all died. On that positive note, I also leveled up to 54, which meant that I could again use Chaser. I started by escorting this Guardian, but I got pulled and wasn't able to protect him, so he died, and I had to do it again. And again, as he died right at the end. I love the slime parkour in this dungeon, but the fighting takes too long. I would also say it's difficult if I wanted to save phase, but it isn't, I just failed, because I ran out of healing potions, and Sharpshooter isn't really survival friendly. It's a sniper, deals tons of damage from afar, but if the enemy can hit him, sucks. So I completed my daily objective, finding a key guardian right after, and used the ability shards to reset my skill points, going for the Bolt Slinger archetype instead. The major ID on Deadeye was finally useful as it shot the arrows all in one place, so it wasn't that different from a Phantom Ray. I also shot 3 arrows and Arrowstorm pushed me back, which I don't really like. I could summon these flying bows called Guardian Angels, which are basically these aimbots shooting everything within 6 blocks of the player for 8 shots until they explode into millions of arrows that shoot like when you shoot arrows on a TNT and then you explode it. I then tried Arrowstorm with my Chaser and it shoots so many arrows. I also gained walk speed for every mob I hit, so I was super fast whenever hitting mobs. And this was better with Chaser as these spread out arrows hit more mobs than Hawkeye. What I don't like about this room though is that if you put your tokens into these towers, it doesn't take 4, but it takes all the tokens you have. Then killing these slimes with Deadeye took too long, so I used Chaser, it shot tons of arrows, I was fast as heck, and did more mobs at once. So at that point I started using it more prominently than Deadeye. I got my 24 tokens and went in. In the boss room there were 3 giant slimes, and out of 1 Skylar spawned. I Arrowstormed all the mobs to get speed, and then I Arrowstormed Skylar. Twice, but mobs kept jumping in front of him, and unlike with Phantom Ray, you can't shoot through stuff. But he TP'd to me and I finished him off, completing this dungeon for the first time. I then completed my guild objective and got 3 more ability shards, and after finishing the dungeon again, I reset my skill points again, going for a path I prepared beforehand that will combine Sharpshooter and Bolt Slinger, getting Frenzy, which makes me speedy when I hit things, Guardian Angels, Phantom Ray, Twins Arc, and the Grappling Hook. But also more shields, which now made me have 4 Guardian Angels. What I wanted and couldn't get were Stormy Feet, which have a prerequisite that is blocked off by Phantom Ray. I also found out that the Sharpshooter and Bolt Slinger combination isn't that ideal, as Phantom Ray makes it harder to get the speed buff, and to get Twins Arc, you need to hit something with all 3 arrows from at least 5 blocks, or Phantom Rays. I even almost got killed because I had so little speed, but after a while I killed the boss using only Phantom Rays. After finishing the dungeon for the 4th time, I had enough fragments to buy a tier 4 fire powder, which I put on my Deadeye, and although it showed and increased the DPS only by 3, it will increase the spell damage a lot. Plus I have fire damage bonuses. I then managed to try Twain's Arc in the boss room, but I nearly died as the boss, just like Theory Twain, teleports to you. But I did manage to kill him. Then something really weird happened. I got cornered and the mobs came after me, but they literally did no damage until I moved to kill the boss. I was holding the going back button, so when I moved, I walked away and the mobs actually started attacking me. I'm not able to recreate that moment, believe me, I tried right after. The run ended with me getting the boss very low with Twain's Arc, Slime getting in the way of the shot that would kill him, and when I finally hit him, the slimes killed me, before I could shoot the final shot, winning the dungeon. I then completed it twice and got an air powder that I put in my chaser, which this time did improve the DPS by 22 because of the fast attack speed. I did the dungeon again, and I realized I actually have dungeon bombs, so I threw one. I wanted to find out if I can run the dungeon twice in the duration of one dungeon bomb, and the answer was yes, with 2 minutes left, but I got overwhelmed by slimes. Twice. But then I finished the dungeon one last time, getting 10 Undergrowth ruins fragments for a future tier 4 powder. Nice! Chapter 11, Tribal Sanctuary. This boss altar is also quest locked, but it's the easiest quest in history. You just talk to 2 people, complete the boss altar, and ta-da! Quest finished. And the boss altar itself isn't that hard, as with this altar players on their first playthrough find out about their existence. The others are mostly hidden. You need zombie eyes to enter, which you can buy in Thanos, but I was too lazy to travel there, so I just killed a few zombies in this cave, got my loot bonus gear on, which unequipped pretty much everything else, and I got to killing, getting very low at times, because, well, I wasn't wearing any decent armor, but in the end I did get 24 and I hoped it will be enough, so I entered. The boss has 60,000 health and has a lot of minions that heal him, so unless you have a ton of damage, it's better to kill them first and go for the boss after. Then I used several Phantom Rays on him and turned to Twain's Arc, which as usually wasn't the best choice as he caught up to me and killed me. Someone count how many times I've been killed by me using Twain's Arc in situations I wasn't supposed to be using it, and put it in the comments. I'm actually curious. This time I used only Phantom Ray, although I did sneak the big gun here and there, and after a while of me being on the other side of the room to the tribe leader, I killed him. He dropped 8 of these antique beds. 1 is enough to complete the quest, but he needs 21 and I got 8, which is really good as usually he drops between 3 and 7. Next time I killed him, I got 2 legendaries and 8 antique beds again, including the chestplate that I want. So I went in for the 4th time. Died, but it's really nice that the altar is just 1 spell away from the point where you respawn, so you don't have to walk for ages to get back. Twain's Arc failed for however many times I've done that. I stopped counting a long time ago, but for the last run I put on my obelisk with loot bonus because I was feeling confident, which I have no idea why after dying twice, but I used my guardian angels to kill him, and thanks to it he dropped a lot of antique beds. 10! That never happened to me before. Maybe they increased the drop rate? Anyways, I identified my Onenya Horonkas, one of the best chestplates in the game. Seriously, it gives ton of health, but forces you to have 92 defense, which doubles the effectiveness of all your HP. I then finished the quest and wondered which mask I should buy for the antique beds until I decided for the Mask of Courage, because it gives 5 skill points into defense, and if I want Onenya Horonkas with 85 defense and 30 strength with Chaser, which has 30 agility, that's 145 skill points at a point where I have only 120. I will need to find 25 skill points somewhere. 14 with Shackles of the Beast, 5 with Mask of Courage, 5 for my necklace, and I will get 2 more once I level up. Until then I will just use Deadeye for this kind epic build. Chapter 12, Nest of Grootslang Raid. Yes, raids are part of this challenge as well. They are these ultra hard challenges for groups of people that give rewards you can't get anywhere else. I will be doing this raid for an important item that you can get pretty easily on a normal playthrough, but due to my Dungeon Master restrictions, this is the only place I can get it from. The boss also has 1 million health, so this will be a fun one. Before we get to the raid, I did a quest, and not the one you might be thinking. I did the Masterpiece, where the guarding mobs are always prettier than the ones you try to describe. I also managed to die, don't ask me how, So I did Decrepit sewers to complete my daily objective, but I killed the boss too fast before the dialogue ended, so the rewards got stuck in this gray state and I couldn't click them. Luckily, after a while I remembered there's a command called /daily, which gave it to me, and I got one ability shard, which was exactly what I needed to reset my ability tree. And this time I went full bolt slinger again, as when I played it, it was way more survivable than sharpshooter, and believe me that for this raid I will need survivability. But I mean, look at this alligator in a top hat. I finished the quest and got the painting, which can be sold for 3 LE. As I was broke, I needed that money. Then I went to the raid. Found out it's not such a pain to get there anymore, as now there's an actual path leading up to it, and I started the quest needed to unlock this raid. We meet Larry, a pacifist, who after being eaten by a corrupted Grootslang is forced to kill him, saving our life and finishing the quest. This hard part was so easy with a bolt slinger. I even leveled up. Not only did I unlock the raid, but also tomes, which you get from raids and can give you cool buffs, so it's always good to have them. I then found a random party using the party finder and went in. Raids consist of 3 challenge rooms that are different every time. In the first room you had to jump in these circles and hold the platform. Surprisingly, I didn't feel useless, as I was able to kill these mobs, because usually the lower levels feel pretty useless in raids. After each room you get a buff, and usually vampire is the best, but since I was going for a speedy archer, I fully committed and went with the racer. In the second room I did parkour, built a tower and died. Luckily, when you die in a raid you get respawned in the next room, because it is meant to be hard. I went with the racer again. I was fast. Then I had to kill mobs on a platform that rose. I found out my walk speed was too fast for parkour, and after I did it 4 times, I got to the last power-ups before the boss, where there was also a racer. So, you know what I had to do. I had 181 agility points. Was like really fast, and it gave me additional 2000 health. So we entered the boss fight, which was always really laggy, and it consists of 5 phases in which you have to kill these Grootslang wormlings, which are children of the big one Larry killed, and the platform gets progressively smaller. The boss nearly killed me several times, but I was able to outrun him. Surprises me how fast he is. But after a while I completed the raid. Killed a plant that looked like from Mario, platform exploded, I fell down, almost killing myself again with full damage, and got to the raid chest, which gives you all the rewards. Now I was really hoping for the reward I came here for, but the chance of getting it is really low. I didn't get it. What I did get were powders that I completely forgot you can get from raids. Also some materials, keys, tomes, a charm, runes, emeralds, and a Korkin amplifier. I then identified the stuff, got tomes of slaying, weapon and armor mastery. And this charm, which when I have it in my inventory takes 17% more damage from mobs, but get 30% more XP from level 60 to 80 stuff. I was however only able to equip the tome of weapon mastery, as I haven't unlocked the rest. I then went in again. In this room you need to stand on the platform in the middle, and in this one you need to click on the cracked stones. But this time the Grootslang died almost instantly, as we had someone with a really good build. I didn't get the item I wanted. I then proceeded to die, complete and level up. This challenge was impossible, like literally. I just followed the path, and at the end it just says I failed, even though I did the correct path. Died, failed, completed, died right before completing, and level up, died, completed, my teammates then died, and I was left alone with a 400,000 HP boss, which I got down to 25,000 before I died, but for some reason it just spawned me right back, just without the buffs. So I died after getting it under 200,000 again, until finally on the 8th chest I got what I was looking for, a horse. You see, normally you get a horse from a level 13 quest, a stable story, but I'm not allowed to do that in this challenge, so the only way of getting a horse is from a raid chest. Now if you remember how in chapter 9 I did ice Barrows once more than I had to,
but you will have to wait until the 12th chapter to find out what for.
Well, this is why. I wanted to upgrade my horse. I then went to Sinfraz and sold the painting I got at the start of this chapter for 3 LE, but because I also got a lot of emeralds from the raid, I suddenly went from having 0 to 6 Zilkut emeralds. Nice. Chapter 13, Galleon's Graveyard. What's interesting about this dungeon is that it got a rework in 2.0, and I haven't actually played it since then. so this will be my first playthrough, just like for some of you. I boarded an unfamiliar pirate ship. Why is the player so gullible? Of course the pirates are just using you and will get rid of you once you're not useful. But using a few strings and planks, I created a ship and finished the dungeon quest, getting this golden pirate fish. So it's all good, and after using my dungeon key, I hopped into the unknown. Dead men tell no tales. I found out the pirates that betrayed me actually play a role in the dungeon. I spent some time trying to find these treasure keys. I like how they managed to give me the 1.13 swimming, even though I'm playing on 1.12. Then I tried killing this bomberman, and after a while found out you have to use his own TNT. I then got my own TNT cannon, which if you shoot the red cross opens a way out. Then there was TNT run, which I didn't realize. I thought the ground just randomly collapses, so I stayed on one place and of course failed. After I managed. Then I had to kill this megalodon, which I actually built myself. Like 3 years ago. I didn't think it was going to be used, but it was. Figuring these cannons was quite the pain, especially since I missed most of them. Next run I got seriously overwhelmed by both boats and lag, so I failed again, but the next run I managed. There was this animation of a piranha, which I had to outrun, and it told me how far behind it is, until I had to slay it, but it was weak to air damage, which was cool since chase was an air weapon, so I just used 2 arrow storms and voila, piranha's dead. I got to the boss, which are the pirates that betrayed me. I got to kill them, which I think is fair. For the first one, all I needed were a few arrow storms, and the other 2 weren't that much harder with the help of a few guardian angels. Then the actual boss spawned, Captain Redbeard, who with his charge pushed me right into the midst of his henchmen, which nearly killed me. Then he decided to shoot cannons all over the arena and hit me also, bringing me to my knees. After that, I just slowly killed him with my arrow storms from my chaser, as he also has air weakness. And I did it! I completed the dungeon. Yay! What I really like about this dungeon is that there is also stats board. I truly hope they implement it in more dungeons. Then I just started using dungeon bombs, because I could, and found out that when you play the dungeon for the second time, you can choose between a story and a normal mode. I chose the story mode, and found out it's the same one I did the first time. Also, a thing I would like to point out is that tokens have now been completely removed and replaced with kill counters, which I like way more. I finished it, and when I went in again, I chose the normal mode. The first difference was that there were no NPCs here. The bomber has already spawned, and that's all I noticed, to be honest. Now a thought occurred to me that it might be cool to at least show you how to get the key to the dungeon, so I went to Marrow Peaks, hoping a guardian would spawn in the water below, as I couldn't go up because for that I would need climbing helmets and, you know, dungeon master. And after a while I found nothing, so I went to the jungle, just ran around, loot ran, which unlocked another tome slot, stood at one place for longer periods of time, and to be honest I was ready to give up, and just as I did a lap in which I said, okay, I'm just gonna give up and use keys of other people, I found one. I went right in after that, and after 6 runs, bought Admiral, a legendary chestplate, I sold the pirate fish for some emeralds, I could also buy a really good bow for another 6 runs, but I wanted the corrupted Witherhead's bow from the corrupted Decrepit sewers, which I will do in part 2 because corrupted dungeons are very similar to the normal ones, and I don't want my videos to be repetitive.